My CEO had a fever and asked me to bring him some medicine. On my way over, I texted my bestie, God, I'd love to feel what he's like at 103. I'd totally trade a promotion and a raise to sleep with him just once. It's freezing out here. I should go give him some physical therapy. A little ice and fire. Except I accidentally sent all of this to my CEO. The second I walked in the door, he pulled me into his arms. His eyes were red with fever. Didn't you want to help me cool down? I tried to play it cool. Mr. Ford, don't, please, calm down. Edward pressed my hand against his burning cheek. He whispered, his voice a low temptation, my temperature is 103 right now. Didn't you say you wanted to feel what I was like at 103? Oh God. The texts I'd sent to my best friend 10 minutes ago. I'd sent them to Edward Ford by mistake. Seeing my stunned silence, he pressed on. And what about that promotion and a raise? I nodded like a bobblehead. Yes, 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 I want it, I want it. I watched the look in Edward's eyes deepen. It didn't take me long to realize this was a trap. In one of the texts I'd accidentally sent him, I'd written, I'd totally trade a promotion and a raise to sleep with him just once. Was he implying I could sleep with him? Once that clicked, I shook my head frantically. No, I don't want it. It wasn't that I didn't want to. I didn't dare. He's my boss, after all. What if he just hit it and quit it? If he fired me afterward, who would I cry to? There are plenty of men in the world, but a high-paying job is hard to find. When it comes to choosing between lust and money, I know which side I'm on. Edward reminded me, what about that, ice and fire? His words made my whole body flush. I couldn't stop my mind from conjuring an image of us, ice and fire, melting together. My face burned. It was all Edward's fault for being so handsome and having such an amazing body. He was like a character straight out of an alpha CEO romance novel. It made him the default star of all my daydreams. But all those texts with my bestie, Sarah, were just us talking trash. In front of Edward, I was always the picture of professionalism. Today was supposed to be my day off. I was relaxing at home. Then Edward got a high fever and asked me to bring him some medicine. And that's what led to this whole mess. I brandished the medicine in my hand. Mr. Ford, here's the medicine you wanted. I've delivered it, so I have somewhere to be. Can I go now? If I didn't leave soon, I was afraid I wouldn't be able to resist his temptation. A flicker of clarity returned to Edward's feverish eyes. He didn't want to let me go. Let me just take my temperature again, he said, trying to keep me there. Jasmine, could you please get me a glass of water? Of course, Mr. Ford, I replied obediently. Even though it was the weekend, Edward was generous. Overtime always meant triple pay. After I got the water, Edward pulled a fine-looking box from behind the sofa. This is for you, he said casually. Open it. I opened the box and found a Patek Philippe watch inside. I quickly put it back in the box and tried to hand it back to him. Mr. Ford, this is too expensive. All I did was bring you some medicine. You don't have to do this. He took the watch out again and grabbed my hand. As he fastened it on my wrist, he said, Jasmine Miller, you've been an excellent assistant these past 3 years. This is a bonus for all your hard work. Even so, this was a seriously expensive bonus. I was so moved. This company has amazing benefits. I'm going to work for Mr. Ford for the rest of my life. I smiled. Well, thank you, Mr. Ford. Edward took his temperature and then handed me the thermometer. Jasmine, can you read this for me? I took the thermometer and looked. Holy cow. His fever was up to 104. I immediately handed him the lukewarm water I'd poured and the medicine. Mr. Ford, it's 104. You need to take this. After taking the medicine, Edward lay down on the sofa and closed his eyes. I'm just going to rest for a bit. If you're bored, feel free to find a book in my study. Oh, okay. I was stuck. I couldn't leave, but I couldn't really stay. I'd just been given a watch worth a small fortune. If I just walked out and left him here sick, all alone, wouldn't that be a little cold-hearted? After all, I felt indebted to him now. I decided I'd wait half an hour, take his temperature again, and leave once I was sure his fever was breaking. I got up and walked toward his study. I was just planning to grab a book off the shelf to kill half an hour. But then, I saw a picture frame on his desk. The photo in the frame was a candid shot of us from a charity gala I'd accompanied him to. We were standing side by side. From that angle, we didn't look like a CEO and his assistant. We looked more like a couple. Why would Edward have this specific photo printed out? And why was it in the most prominent spot on his desk? Did he ask me to come find a book because he wanted me to see this? What a sly bastard. Just then, a system notification chimed in my head. Because he has a secret crush on you, obviously. I almost laughed out loud. I have a crush on Edward, and he just so happens to have a crush on me. This is a full-blown mutual crush situation. But the system threw a bucket of cold water on my fantasy. Even though you have a mutual crush, in the story of this world, you're the original love interest who gets her role as the female lead stolen by a side character. After Edward drops multiple hints about his feelings for you and you remain oblivious, he gives up and hides his affection. Later, your mother gets sick and pressures you into going on blind dates. You end up in a whirlwind marriage with your college upperclassman. When Edward finds out, his love turns to hate, and he fires you. Shortly after, at a high society party, he meets a wealthy heiress who looks about 60% like you. That's Sophia, the one who steals your role as the female lead. Edward initially marries Sophia to appease his family, kicking off a marriage of convenience turns to love plotline. Sophia gradually wins his heart and he spoils her rotten. Meanwhile, you are neglected by your husband, Greg, after your marriage. It's not until 5 years later that you discover he has a boyfriend. You were his beard. The novel ends with you, divorced, selling fried rice from a food cart at a night market. Edward and Sophia, sitting in their Maybach, drive right past you without a second glance. After the system's spoiler drop, I went silent. There was no way I was going to end up selling fried rice from a food cart in 5 years. Wouldn't it be better to be the one in the Maybach? I made my decision. I was going to lock Edward down and not let Sophia steal my story. I walked out of the study and went back to the sofa. I quietly watched Edward as he slept. In the 3 years I'd been his assistant, he really had dropped a lot of hints. For example, there was the time he gave me a ride home in the rain. When we got to my apartment building, he looked at me expectantly and asked, "Not going to invite me up for a bit?" I thought he was just being polite and didn't actually want to come up. So I politely refused. "It's getting late, Mr. Ford. Maybe another time." Or the time he handed me 2 theater tickets and asked, "Jasmine, are you free to see a play this weekend?" I thought it was a company perk, so I took the tickets and said, "Thank you, Mr. Ford. I'll go with my bestie this weekend." And another time, I went with him to a business dinner. He'd had too much to drink, and I helped him to his presidential suite at the hotel. He pinned me against the door, his eyes full of emotion. "Jasmine, have you ever thought about being in a relationship?" I thought he was testing me. Worried that I'd let a relationship affect my work. So I immediately declared, "Mr. Ford, I have no interest in dating. I just want to focus on my career." Then there were all the gifts he would give me. I assumed they were employee benefits and immediately listed them on eBay. And the time I ran into him on my morning jog, and we had breakfast together. The diner owner greeted him, "Bringing your girlfriend for breakfast again?" He just nodded. "Yep." I just figured he couldn't be bothered to explain. It turns out, I'd misread everything. He wanted to come up to my apartment to get closer to me. He wanted to go on a date with me to see a play. He wanted to be in a relationship with me. The gifts he gave me weren't employee benefits, they were specifically for me. He wasn't too lazy to explain. In his heart, he already thought of me as his girlfriend. In his sleep, Edward murmured my name. Jasmine, don't go. System spoiler, he's dreaming about you. Don't be fooled by his usual cold demeanor. He's devoured you in his dreams more times than you can count. I couldn't stop blushing. I reached out and felt his forehead. Still burning up. Looks like the medicine hadn't kicked in yet. I really wanted to cuddle with him. To give him some of that physical cooling. To be the ice to his fire. Hold on. What is wrong with my brain? In the next second, Edward's arms snaked around my waist, pulling me into his embrace. I thought he was awake. But he wasn't. He was just holding me in his dream. My face was pressed against the hot curve of his neck. If I moved my lips just a tiny bit forward, I could kiss his Adam's apple. This was way too intimate. Mr. Ford, I whispered a few times. When he didn't respond, I decided to try and take his temperature again. I reached for the buttons on his shirt. By the third button, my eyes were glued to him. With a body like that, if I were his girlfriend, I couldn't even imagine how lucky I'd be. The system egged me on. Want to see those abs? They're right there. Just unbutton 3 more and you'll get a peek. Take back the main character aura that Sophia stole from you. Complete this mission for a reward. Abs were something that only existed in my saved folder online. I'd never seen them in real life. But sneaking a peek at a guy's abs while he's asleep, isn't that what a creep would do? System, he's asleep. Just take a quick look. And I guarantee you, he'd be more than happy for you to look. My lust overrode my logic. I couldn't resist the temptation. Just one look. What's the harm in that? I summoned my courage and unbuttoned the 4th button. By the time I finished the 6th, his entire chest and abs were on display. Whoa. Absolutely perfect. The sight made my blood race. System announcement, reward, protagonist aura +1. For every point your aura increases, Sophia's will decrease by 1. Poke his abs for a 2-point protagonist aura reward. The rewards were too tempting. I poked Edward's abs. They felt amazing. 1 poke wasn't enough. I kept poking. System announcement, protagonist aura +6. It could stack. To rack up more aura points, I kept poking and poking and poking. The system kept announcing, protagonist aura +10. Just as my aura hit 21, a large hand clamped down on my finger. Edward was awake. He'd caught me red-handed. He opened his eyes, glanced down at his open shirt, and said with a hint of amusement, "Having fun?" Flustered, I scrambled to rebutton his shirt, my face burning. "Mr. Ford, I was just trying to take your temperature." Edward sat up, leaning back against the sofa. He watched me with a leisurely gaze and a smirk. "You need to unbutton my entire shirt to take my temperature? And all that poking just now, what was that about?" There was no explaining my way out of this one. I bit my lip. "I'm sorry." "You don't have to be sorry. You just have to take responsibility," Edward said, taking my hand and placing it back on his abs. He was like a seductive demon right now. "Be my girlfriend, and you can touch them whenever you want. Anytime, anywhere. Whenever you feel like it, I'll unbutton my shirt and let you have your fill." Oh. He wasn't playing fair, tempting me like this. I was just about to say yes. But just then, the doorbell rang. Edward owns 2 places he stays at regularly, a villa a bit far from the office, and this place, a 5,000 square foot apartment near the company. I swallowed the words I was about to say. "Should I get the door for you?" "Yeah," Edward nodded, starting to button his shirt. I walked through the foyer and entrance hall to open the door. Standing there was Edward's mother, Eleanor Ford. When Mrs. Ford saw it was me, her expression froze. She looked me up and down with a superior air. "Jasmine, it's the weekend. What are you doing here?" In that instant, my confidence crumbled. "Mrs. Ford, I came to give Mr. Ford Before I could finish the words his medicine, Mrs. Ford cut me off. Mrs. Ford? Jasmine, you should address me as Madam Ford. I lowered my gaze, my bravado vanishing into thin air. Yes, Madam Ford. I came to bring Mr. Ford his medicine. Her eyes fell to the Patek Philippe on my wrist, and her gaze hardened. I need to speak with Edward. Since the medicine has been delivered, you can go. Edward's apartment was huge, he probably couldn't hear us talking at the door. I couldn't just leave without saying goodbye. I'll just go let Mr. Ford know. That won't be necessary. I'll tell him for you, she said, stepping inside. She glanced back elegantly. Close the door on your way out. Okay. I pulled the door shut, feeling as if a bucket of ice-cold reality had been dumped on me. I had just pressed the elevator button when the door behind me opened again. Edward, who had just fastened the second-to-last button on his shirt, chased after me. He lowered his voice. Jasmine, don't pay any attention to what my mom said. She hadn't said much, but her attitude said everything. It made me feel like the Ford family was completely out of my league. I avoided his gaze. You two should talk. I'm heading home. Don't overthink it, Edward said, trying to reassure me. Wait for my call. Okay, I nodded, gesturing for him to go back inside before his mother got the wrong idea. She probably already had the wrong idea. I suspected that when she came in, she saw Edward buttoning his shirt and assumed something had happened between us. On the way home, the system gave me a spoiler. Eleanor is hostile toward you because when Edward's father was alive, he had an affair with his secretary, who almost managed to marry into the family. Eleanor comes from a wealthy family herself, and she's determined that her daughter-in-law will also be from an elite family. Sophia fits her criteria perfectly. My heart sank. I had been too naive, thinking that just by winning Edward over, I could change my fate. But a family as powerful as the Fords, could I really marry into it just because I wanted to? When I got home, I took off the watch and locked it away in my jewelry box. Edward called. Home yet? Yeah, I replied. I asked you to be my girlfriend, he said gently. Have you thought about it? If his mother hadn't shown up, would have said yes on the spot. But now, I'd changed my mind. It pained me, but I said, Mr. Ford, I don't think we're a good fit. Our families weren't a good fit. Our statuses weren't a good fit. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line before he said seriously, we won't know if we're a good fit until we try. Jasmine Miller, you don't have to worry about my mom's attitude. What I want is more important than anything else. But I didn't see it that way. Eleanor is his mother. How could I not care about her attitude? Just a few words with her had been suffocating. If I actually started dating Edward, she would only treat me more coldly. I took a deep breath and gave a non-committal answer. Edward, let me think about it. Okay, he said, his voice full of hope. I'll wait for your answer. That evening, I met up with my bestie, Sarah, for dinner. We went to a French restaurant. Sarah glanced at another table and lowered her voice. Jasmine, look. That's Sophia's song, The Heiress. The system came online. According to the original plot, you're not supposed to meet Sophia yet. But because you spontaneously asked Sarah to dinner today, and you happened to choose this restaurant, you've met her ahead of schedule. This is probably because you now have 21% of the protagonist aura. I snuck a look at Sophia. I didn't think she looked anything like me. I specifically asked Sarah, Sarah, do you think Sophia and I look alike? Sarah studied her for a moment, then shook her head. Not at all. You're way prettier. That was strange. If we didn't look alike, why did the system say she was 60% similar to me? System, you're seeing the pre-plastic surgery Sophia. Once Sophia finds out Edward is in love with you, she will use you as a template for her plastic surgery. However, the results aren't perfect, which is why she only ends up looking 60% like you. I see. The system seemed to hesitate. Actually, I waited for the system to continue. But it changed the subject. There's another secret, but the time isn't right. I can't tell you yet. This system really knew how to build suspense. After dinner, I went to pay the bill. At the register, I ran into Sophia, who was also paying. She glanced at me, a knowing smile on her lips. You must be Edward's assistant, right? I've heard Eleanor mention you. Sophia already knew who I was. That was a surprise. And she'd made a point of saying Eleanor, which suggested they were close. I replied with polite detachment, hello. And you are? Sophia's smile was sly. My name is Sophia Song. The Song and Ford families are discussing a marriage alliance. Was she trying to warn me off? Make me back down? I just nodded and didn't say anything else. Monday morning. I was grabbing coffee at the shop downstairs from the Ford Corporation building. Eleanor was sitting by the window and smiled at me. Jasmine, come chat for a moment. I walked over and sat down across from her. Her smile vanished. She got straight to the point. I don't know how far things have gone with you and my son, but I want to tell you that a family like ours is out of your league. If you're thinking of using him to climb the ladder, I suggest you give up on that idea right now. I clenched my fists under the table, forcing myself to stay calm. Madam Ford, I think you've misunderstood. Mr. Ford and I have a purely professional relationship. It's good that you know your place, Eleanor said haughtily. If you forget it, I can have you replaced as his assistant at any time. I will be sure to remember my place, I said meekly. Eleanor nodded, satisfied. It seems you're a smart girl. I expect you to maintain a professional distance from Edward while you're at work. You do your job as his assistant, and I'll find someone else to be my daughter-in-law. I nodded. Yes, I understand. Eleanor left first. I felt like all the strength had been drained from my body. System, lame. She didn't even offer you money to leave her son. I gave a bitter smile. She probably didn't think I was even worth buying off. Just threatening my job was enough to put me in my place. For the next 5 workdays, I kept a careful distance from Edward at the office. I even changed my morning jogging route to avoid running into him. System, are you dumb? Eleanor manipulates you a little, and you're already scared to go near Edward? You should do the opposite. Create more physical contact with him to increase your protagonist aura. The more protagonist aura you have, the more things will mysteriously start to go your way. Forget it. After what Eleanor said, I wasn't about to shamelessly cling to her son. But if he clung to me, that was a different story. Before I knew it, it was Saturday. I got a call from my dad. Jasmine, your mother's old illness is acting up again. Can you come home? I panicked. Okay, I'll book the next flight back. I quickly bought a ticket back to my hometown, Anniston. System, oh no, oh no. When you go back this time, your mom is going to guilt trip you into going on a blind date. Then you'll meet Greg. Your parents will love him and pressure you to settle down. To give your mom peace of mind, you'll get married. Only after you're married will you find out your mom's illness was never as serious as they made it sound. Even so, I had to go back. I wanted to find out why my parents were in such a hurry for me to go on blind dates. I'm an only child, and my parents have always been wonderful to me. They'd been nagging me to date for the past couple of years, but faking an illness to force me into marriage felt extreme. There had to be something I didn't know. Maybe this was the secret the system mentioned, the one it couldn't tell me yet. I had to go back and find out the truth myself. As I was packing, my phone rang. It was Edward. Jasmine, I'm downstairs. What's your apartment number? Can I come up? I hesitated for a moment, then replied, yeah, I'm in 606. Come on up. This was the first time Edward had ever been to my place. I went to the fridge to get him some water. He followed me into the kitchen, his eyes dark and intense. Why have you been avoiding me? Did my mother say something to you? That day in the coffee shop, the moment I saw Eleanor, I knew she was waiting for me. So I had secretly recorded our conversation. I had a recording of everything she said to me. I debated whether to play it for him. Secretly recording someone, especially his own mother, and then playing it for him was a risky move. I decided against it. When I didn't answer, Edward pulled me into his arms, a hint of hurt in his voice. "Jasmine Miller, please don't give me the silent treatment." "Mr. Ford," I didn't know where to start. The next moment, he bent his head and kissed me. It was as if he could no longer contain the deep feelings he'd hidden for so long. He was testing my reaction, waiting for me to respond. I was a little dazed. A voice in my head told me to push him away. But when I placed my hands on his chest, I found I had no strength. I didn't want to push him away at all. System announcement, protagonist aura +5. Kiss him back for +10 protagonist aura. I threw all reason to the wind. My hands snaked around his back, and I kissed him back. He was ecstatic, deepening the kiss. System announcement, protagonist aura +10, the longer you kiss, the more points you get. Today's max is +20. I was too lost in the moment to even register the numbers the system was calling out. In that instant, I couldn't hear anything else. I just wanted to kiss him forever. 10 minutes later. He pulled back reluctantly, keeping me wrapped in his arms. He whispered tenderly, "Jasmine, you just have to tell me if you want to be with me. I'll take care of all the obstacles." I nodded, no longer hiding what I truly felt. I wanted to be with him. Even if it didn't lead anywhere, I wanted to try having a relationship with him. Overjoyed, Edward lifted me onto the sofa and continued kissing me. Another 10 minutes passed. System announcement, protagonist aura +5. You've hit the daily cap. You can stop kissing now. But we couldn't stop. I didn't care if it didn't increase my aura. Kissing the person you've had a crush on for so long, it felt too good. I wanted to make this feeling last. We kissed for a full 30 minutes before my alarm went off. I had to finish packing and get to the airport. Edward reluctantly let me go. "I have to go to the airport too. Let's go together." Edward had a last-minute business trip abroad. Normally, I would have gone with him. But this time, I had to take care of my own business. He walked me to my departure gate and hugged me at the security checkpoint. "Wait for me to come back." "I will," I nodded. After I passed through security, I turned back and waved to him. The system came online. This business trip was arranged by Eleanor. Sophia will be on the same trip. Sophia specifically bought the seat next to Edward's. They are about to have their fated meeting. Right now, your protagonist aura is at 41%, while Sophia's is at 59%. If she makes a move on Edward, the whole world will bend to her will. The next part of the story is the male lead meeting the new female lead, while you go on a blind date with the second male lead. This is the critical turning point that will decide your future. After arriving in Anniston, I went straight to the hospital where my mom was staying. That evening, I was sitting with her in her room. As expected, she brought up the topic of blind dates. "Jasmine, you're not getting any younger. You can't just focus on work. You need to think about your future. You're the one I worry about the most. I just want to see you get married and settled down." If it weren't for the system's spoilers, I probably would have agreed. But now, I wouldn't. "Mom, I'm only 25. This is the prime of my career. I'm not in a rush to get married. I decided to come clean. Actually, I have a boyfriend." My mom immediately lit up. "A boyfriend? How come you never mentioned him? Who is he? How old? Do you have a picture? Let me see." I hesitated. "Once things are more stable, can I bring him home to meet you and Dad?" My mom looked worried. "Jasmine, you should break up with him. I have someone much more suitable for you." I thought about her words and latched onto the key point. "Mom, you don't even know who my boyfriend is. Why do you want me to break up with him?" My mom's eyes darted away. I don't want you to marry someone so far away. A college classmate of yours came by the house a couple of times recently, asking about you. I don't know if you remember him. His name is Greg. You were classmates, so you know his background. He's from Anniston, so if you marry him, we'd have peace of mind. Can you just go have dinner with him tomorrow? If it works out, you can get engaged. I was getting more and more confused. Mom, I barely know Greg. Please don't try to play matchmaker. Besides, don't you think it's weird that a classmate I haven't spoken to in years just suddenly starts showing up at our house? Well, my mom's eyes widened slightly, as if my words had finally dawned on her. I pressed on. Did someone say something to you? My mom was quiet for a moment, then confessed. Jasmine, be honest with me. Are you the mistress of some rich, married man in the city? I was stunned. Mom, who told you that? Of course not. I've been single for years. I only just started dating someone, and my boyfriend is young and single. My mom's face brightened. Really? After I confirmed it, she opened up. A little while ago, Greg came and told us you were a rich old man's mistress. He even showed me and your father pictures. He said he's had a crush on you for years and wanted us to talk some sense into you. I wanted to ask you about it, but I didn't know how. The whole thing was bottled up inside me, and it made me sick. That's why I wanted you to come home and go on a blind date. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mom, you and Dad were tricked. By the way, do you have those pictures? Let me see. My mom shook her head. Greg showed them to us on his phone. I tried to take a picture of the screen, but he wouldn't let me. She tried to recall the details. It was a man in a suit, driving a Maybach. He looked about your father's age. I think the license plate ended in 888. A name popped into my head. The pictures Greg showed my parents must have been of Edward's driver, Leo. As Edward's assistant, I was often with him, which meant I was often in his car. Someone must have taken pictures of Leo opening the car door for me and used Greg to spread rumors to my parents. The person behind it was either Eleanor or Sophia. System, you guessed it. Eleanor provided the photos, and Sophia paid Greg to do her dirty work. I pulled up a photo of Edward on my phone and showed it to my mom. Mom, this is my boyfriend. He's 28 this year, and he's also my boss. The man you're talking about is his driver, Leo. My mom looked at Edward's picture and was clearly very impressed. But then she thought about my boss's family background and grew worried again. Does his family know? I knew what she meant. She was worried the Ford family wouldn't approve of us. They don't know yet. But we only just started dating. We're not at the marriage stage yet. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I changed the subject. Mom, from now on, if something comes up, talk to me first. Don't let people take advantage of you. My mom let out a sigh of relief, a weight lifted from her shoulders. Okay. I was just afraid you'd fall for temptation in the big city. We can't do things that are morally wrong. I nodded. I know. With my mom's worries eased, she was discharged from the hospital the next day. As I was going downstairs to take out the trash, the system gave me a spoiler. Eleanor is planning to set things up so Edward and Sophia are forced to sleep together. Normally, something like that would never work on him. But with Sophia's 59% protagonist aura, plus Eleanor's help, the chances of success are very high. I was so focused on the system's spoiler that I wasn't watching where I was going. With 3 steps left on the staircase, I missed one and tumbled down. As luck would have it, my hand landed on a shard of broken glass. Blood welled up in my palm. First things first, don't panic. Second, take a picture with my phone. Then, I casually posted it to my social feed with the caption, "Can't even walk down the stairs without falling." System, ooh, getting a little devious, are we? Hey, a girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do. I admit, I posted that picture so Edward would see it. Eleanor wanted to force a situation between him and Sophia. I couldn't exactly fly overseas and drag him back. My only hope was to see if I could get him to come back on his own. A minute after I posted it, Edward called, asking what happened. He asked for my address and then said one thing: wait for me. That night, at 11 o'clock, I was tossing and turning, unable to sleep. The doorbell rang. I rushed to open it. There stood Edward, looking travel-worn. He really came back. I threw myself into his arms, my heart bursting with sweetness. It's just a small cut. Why did you come back? Won't this mess up your work? Edward hugged me back. After I got there, I realized there wasn't any important work to do. He trailed off, then changed the subject. Let's not talk about that. Let me see your hand. He took my hand. The cut was already bandaged. My parents, now dressed in their robes, came out of their room. Jasmine, who is it so late? They saw Edward holding my hand. I instinctively tried to pull my hand away, but Edward held on tight. He introduced himself confidently: Mom, Dad, I'm Jasmine's boyfriend, Edward Ford. My parents exchanged a look and quickly invited him inside. My mom went to get him some water while my dad made small talk. Edward, Jasmine told us you were on a business trip. What brings you back? Edward took the glass of water from my mom and answered, Jasmine got hurt. I was worried, so I flew back right away. My parents nodded. I'm sure they could tell from that gesture that Edward was serious about me. That night, Edward stayed in our guest room. System, your fall today was perfectly timed, and so was your social media post. When Edward saw it, he decided to fly back immediately, dodging a major bullet. Eleanor and Sophia's plan is ruined. But they won't give up that easily. Eleanor will keep trying to set Edward up with Sophia. Sophia will most likely get her plastic surgery done earlier than planned. Your protagonist aura is currently 41%, while Sophia's is 59%. It'll be easy for her to turn the tables. I asked the system, how can I increase my protagonist aura tonight? System, pinning him on the bed will earn you 5 points. If you want more, well, you know what to do. Was it suggesting we seal the deal? That was way too fast. Besides, the walls in my parents' house are thin. And my parents are pretty conservative. How embarrassing would it be if they heard something? Whatever. I'll go for the 5 points first. I'll figure out the rest as I go. I heard the bathroom door open and figured Edward was done with his shower. The moment he stepped into the guest room, I followed him in and shut the door behind me. He turned, his arms circling my waist, looking at me like a predator eyeing its willing prey. Just as he was about to kiss me, I leaned in and whispered in his ear, the walls are thin here. Let's go to the bed. A fire lit in Edward's eyes. He lifted me up and gently placed me on the bed. A tender kiss followed. 5 minutes later, the system announced, protagonist aura +5. Keep up the good work to unlock higher rewards. We kissed for another 10 minutes, but the system didn't offer any more rewards. I did the math. My aura was now at 46, while Sophia's was at 54. Hers was still higher than mine. To avoid any unexpected twists, I decided to go all in. Edward pulled away from me and lay down beside me, trying to calm the fire in his veins. He looked over at me, his voice husky. Good girl. Go back to your room and sleep. He was afraid that if I stayed in his room any longer, he'd lose control. I rolled on top of him, studying his handsome face. What if I don't want to go? The fire in his eyes burned even hotter. Behave, he coaxed, his voice low. Don't test my self-control. Tonight, I was determined to test his self-control. I'd been wanting him for so long. I kissed his Adam's apple and whispered sweetly, babe, I want more. Edward flipped me over, taking control, but he still held back, asking, it's my first time at your parents' house. If we do this, won't they get the wrong impression of me? I smiled. I'm 25. Just be quiet so they don't hear. He couldn't hold back any longer. He pulled the blanket over our heads. He was actually quite restrained, not making a sound. Me, on the other hand, I nearly bit through my lip. He kissed my lips, his voice laced with concern. Don't bite yourself. Bite me. A crash of thunder sounded outside, followed by a torrential downpour. Rain lashed against the windows. I heard my mom get up to close the windows on the balcony. Hearing footsteps in the hallway, my body went rigid. Edward held himself back, sweat dripping onto my neck, his eyes like smoldering coals. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, my mom closed the balcony windows. Then she knocked on my door. Jasmine, are you asleep? It's raining. Remember to close your window. I bit my lip and stayed silent. Assuming I was asleep, she didn't say anything more and went back to her room. The storm outside grew more violent. The window in the guest room was open, and it rattled and creaked in the wind. The white curtains billowed wildly, and raindrops soaked the roses blooming on the balcony. System announcement: protagonist aura increased by 10%. Congratulations, host, your aura has surpassed Sophia's. Your protagonist aura is now 56%, while hers is 44%. The higher your aura, the more the people around the male lead will like you. There was a perk like that? So if my protagonist aura reached 100%, would Eleanor stop opposing our relationship? System, that's the idea. Keep it up. The rain fell all night. The system made 2 more announcements: protagonist aura plus 10. Protagonist aura plus 10 again. All told, my protagonist aura had reached 76%, completely crushing Sophia's 24%. And at this point, I had no energy left to fight for any more. This was good enough for now. At 6 in the morning, I struggled to get up. I should go back to my room, I told Edward. I figured my mom would call us for breakfast around 8. Okay, Edward said, satisfied, and gave me a kiss on the forehead. I got dressed and tiptoed out of the guest room. Just as I stepped out, I ran right into my mom, who was on her way to the bathroom. We stared at each other, wide-eyed. My face turned instantly crimson. Mom, I explained weakly, I was just helping him close his window. My mom just said calmly, okay. Go back to sleep. I scurried back to my room. Once I was under the covers, I grabbed my phone to text Edward. Crap, my mom totally caught me. So embarrassing. 2 minutes passed, and Edward didn't reply. I glanced at my phone and my heart stopped. I'd accidentally sent the text meant for Edward, to my mom. I frantically tried to unsend it, but it was too late. The system laughed at me mercilessly. Pfft, you still haven't kicked that habit of texting the wrong person. This was social suicide. I quickly sent another message to my mom, wrong person. I really was just closing his window. My mom replied, Jasmine, your father and I aren't prudes. And you're not a child anymore. Just be responsible. Well, that was a relief. I let out a breath. Edward messaged me, you worked hard, babe. Get some sleep. He was the one who did all the work. I sent him a kissing emoji and finally fell into a peaceful sleep. For the first time ever, my mom didn't wake us up for breakfast. I slept until 11 in the morning. When I came out of my room, I saw Edward sitting on the sofa with my parents. He had gotten up early and had been talking with them for a while. I said good morning, and my parents stood up, saying they were going to start lunch. I went to wash up, and Edward followed me into the bathroom, wrapping his arms around me from behind. I've spoken with your parents, he said. I told them I'm serious about you and that I want to marry you. I looked worried. But your mom doesn't like me. Let me handle my mom, Edward promised. You don't have to worry. I nodded. Okay. Edward was incredibly generous. He bought my parents a new car and a small villa in Anniston. We stayed in my hometown for 3 days before returning to New York. By now, my protagonist aura had reached 100%, and Sophia had none left. When Eleanor found out Edward and I were dating, she was calmer than I expected. She sipped her tea in the villa and said coolly, "Edward is 28 and has never been in a relationship. It's fine for him to date Jasmine, as long as they don't get married." She seemed to be comforting herself. At least he likes women. That's a relief. Perhaps because my protagonist aura was maxed out, it had subconsciously changed her opinion of me, though she hadn't fully accepted me yet. Sophia, however, instigated Greg to spread rumors at my parents' workplaces, claiming I was the mistress of a married old man. She claimed the car and the villa were gifts from him. Even that photo of Leo opening the car door for me went viral in Anniston. My mom is a teacher, and my dad works for the Board of Education. These kinds of rumors were a huge headache for them. First, Edward hired a private investigator to get photos of Greg kissing his boyfriend at a bar, then sent them to Greg's parents' workplaces. Greg's parents' world came crashing down, and they gave him the beating of a lifetime. Next, the Ford Corporation opened a new branch in Anniston. Edward brought me with him to personally attend the ribbon-cutting ceremony. The media snapped photos of Leo opening the car door for us, and Edward confidently took my hand. During the interview portion, a reporter asked, "Mr. Ford, is this your girlfriend?" Edward wrapped his arm around my shoulder and nodded. Yes. The interview made the local business news, effectively clearing up all the rumors. Sophia went ahead with her plastic surgery. She was willing to spend the money, but she was too greedy. The surgeon advised her to make minor adjustments, but she ignored him and opted for a major overhaul. She wanted to look exactly like me. The result was a disaster. Eleanor arranged to meet with her. Sophia showed up wearing sunglasses and a mask, saying anxiously, "Aunt Eleanor, I heard Edward and Jasmine are dating. Can you please force them to break up?" Eleanor sized her up. "Take off your sunglasses and mask first." Sophia was reluctant, but she couldn't stand up to Eleanor's powerful presence. She had no choice but to take them off. When Eleanor saw Sophia's botched surgery, her smile froze on her face. "You look rather frightening. You can forget about being the Ford family's daughter-in-law." Sophia collapsed into her chair. Eleanor had completely removed her from the list of potential candidates. 3 months later, Eleanor called Edward's assistant. "Have Mr. Ford and Jasmine broken up yet?" The assistant replied, "Madam, Mr. Ford and Jasmine have moved in together. They're very happy." Another 3 months passed, and Eleanor called the assistant again. "Have Mr. Ford and Jasmine broken up yet?" "Madam," the assistant said, "Mr. Ford proposed to Jasmine. Didn't you know?" 3 more months went by, and Eleanor made her routine call to the assistant. "How are things between Mr. Ford and Jasmine lately?" The assistant replied, "Madam, I think Jasmine is pregnant. She doesn't want to have the baby, says it will affect her career. Mr. Ford is going crazy trying to convince her otherwise." Eleanor couldn't sit still any longer. She asked me to meet her at a coffee shop. I tried to be understanding. "Madam Ford, I've already scheduled the procedure. You don't have to worry." Eleanor's demeanor was completely different from the first time we'd met. Her tone was gentle. "Jasmine, calling me Madam Ford is so formal. You can start calling me Eleanor, or even Mom. If you're pregnant, you should have the baby. I hear you're only 2 months along, so you're not showing yet. You two should get married first." I was surprised. "Eleanor, you're not against me and Edward being together anymore?" She nodded. "I admit, I wasn't happy with your family background before. But I've come to terms with it. Edward is capable enough to make the Ford Corporation even more successful without needing a marriage alliance. Over the past year, I've seen him smile so much more, and his career has flourished. It seems he chose the right person, so I have no reason to object anymore. Plus, from what I've observed this year, you have a charming personality and you're a great support to Edward in his work. That makes up for your family's status. Besides, Edward said he wouldn't marry anyone but you. If I keep being difficult, our family will fall apart. It's not worth it. After she finished, she took out an heirloom jade bracelet and put it on my wrist. I'd like to have dinner with your parents to discuss the wedding plans. Since she had convinced herself to accept me, I wasn't going to create unnecessary drama and fight her on it. I nodded. Okay. Edward and I had a beautiful wedding, and our life together was blissful. I gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. As the children grew, my love for Edward only deepened. 3 years later, on the winter solstice, a heavy snow began to fall. Eleanor was in the garden building a snowman with her grandchildren. That evening, Edward came down with a fever. I gave him some medicine to take. His body was burning up. He whispered seductively, "Honey, I'm 103. Can you help me cool down?" A cold wind blew in through the window, and I shivered. It was cold. I wanted to get warm by the fire. I wanted ice and fire. I got up, closed the window, and drew the curtains. Then, I slowly unbuttoned his shirt, a playful smile on my lips. Of course. I'll help you cool down. Outside, the snow fell harder and harder, but inside, the room was filled with a cozy warmth. The fire in the hearth burned brighter, and Edward and I found ourselves lost in our own perfect spring.